Despite its childish and wildly immature nature, Talking with Dinosaurs is not intended for children. It has blasphemy, sweary words, sexy talk, and bad thoughts. It is for entertainment purposes only, and while care has been taken to keep information as accurate as possible, paleontology is an ever-growing field with new data and theories constantly changing how we see these prehistoric monsters, so we make no guarantees about accuracy. Not that it matters, paleontologists are just making it all up as they go along anyway. Also, Mum, I'm still very, very sorry. Kia ora koutou, we are back. It is time for Talking with Dinosaurs, the world's #1 rated not safe for work comedy dinosaur podcast, hosted by a New Zealander. I'm your host, Stefan Ato, and I'm here to talk about the ancient terrible beasts which ruled our world before us. For hundreds of millions of years, Earth was roamed by a huge array of amazing creatures. And as much as humanity is apparently trying to wipe out as many of them as possible, I have put it upon myself to catalogue each and every single one of them. Well, okay, maybe not all of them. There is a lot, and we don't know most of them. There was no evidence left, and those that we do know are often just from an errant toenail clipping or the butt print they left behind in the sand. I'm looking at you, Dilophosaurus. More like Dorcophosaurus, right? So just the interesting ones, really, that we actually know something about. Ah, crap, that actually narrows it down quite a bit. Well, we'll just have to make the best of this while it lasts. So what is this episode's dank dinosaur to be detailed? Why, it's the controversial star of Jurassic Park 3, and everyone's favourite theropod, Ceratosaurus. Spino who? No, Ceratosaurus. If you cast your mind back, he was the red-faced horny boy from Jurassic Park 3 who approached the beautiful Sam Neill, and he sniffed some Spinosaurus poo, and then he left. You know, he had a whopping 13 seconds of screen time. No, that wasn't Carnotaurus, but a lot of people thought it was, due to the tiny arms and size. Now, some people claim that such a brief cameo doesn't really deserve star status, but fuck them. Bryan Cranston got star billing for 2014's Godzilla film, and he wasn't in that for a lot longer than this. Now, Ceratosaurus was a middling-sized theropod. As a middling-sized theropod, it was still about 6 to 7 meters long and weighed about 600 kgs. But it probably wasn't that much taller than a person, and much smaller than its Isla counterpart. Sort of the opposite to the Dilophosaurus from the first Jurassic Park film, which was shown as much smaller than it actually was. The two creatures were actually pretty similar heights, though separated by, 30 million years or so. Ceratosaurus was distinguishable pretty easily from most other theropods by a very distinctive rhino-like horn growing out of its nose, and two horn-like ridges above its eyes. These horn-like ridges above the eye are probably why so many people confuse it with Carnotaurus, despite the fact that Carnotaurus was a meter taller, 2 meters longer, and had arms that made a T-Rex look like a Dinosaurus. I'm always a bit hesitant about making gags requiring a decent knowledge of dinosaurs, but if you don't get that one, that just means you need to listen to more episodes. You know what, I'm beginning to think your whole life doesn't necessarily revolve around me or my podcast. This is disgraceful. I have an ego to feed, and if you keep treating me like this, I might be able to fit my head through a door again, and we can't have that. Ceratosaurus was found in the late Jurassic, sharing much of the same habitats as Stegosaurus, Brachiosaurus, and, weirdly, Allosaurus. What were two large predators doing inhabiting the same areas? Wouldn't the much larger, stronger Allosaurus just annihilate the Ceratosaurus and keep all the nommy herbivores for itself? Well, probably not. They probably evolved alongside each other and learned to adapt to each other's lifestyles, much like modern lions and cheetahs. They could have evolved to hunt different prey, with Allosaurus potentially hunting larger prey, or possibly with Ceratosaurus preferring aquatic meals. Or maybe they were all paired up in unlikely Jurassic buddy cop shows, and all Allosauruses and Ceratosauruses learned to love each other by fighting crime, crimes engineered by the diabolical sauropod crime syndicate who were desperately trying to smuggle in some dank plants in order to make money to finance buying more dank plants to eat. Right, I haven't thought it through very well, but that's fine, there's still time. Actually, no, as soon as I said that, it was pitched to Netflix, greenlit, and it has had a series commissioned. That was fast. Oh, and it's not been picked up for a second season. They really get that stuff sorted quickly at Netflix. Ceratosaurus was originally discovered in the early 1880s by a farmer with the unfortunate last name of... No, surely not. Felch? I won't claim to know if he was into his last name, but as I often say, I'm not here to judge. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please don't Google it. Seriously, don't say I didn't warn you. It was discovered in an area that became known as... Oh, are you fucking kidding me? Felch's Quarry? Can I even say that on the internet? I mean... Look, I tell you what though, that is definitely what I'm exclusively calling the butthole from now on. Also, seriously, do not Google this. I do not want that on my conscience if you don't know already. It was surprisingly well preserved. It was a surprisingly well preserved specimen, mostly still in a living position, which is always a rare find. Despite being pretty much in a standing position, late 1800s paleontologists, renowned for doing their best to advance science despite having their heads firmly implanted in their Felch's Quarry, decided that nature didn't know what the fuck it was talking about, and decided Ceratosaurus walked upright like a person instead. Long-term friend of the podcast, O.C. Marsh, lead combatant in the Bone Wars and arch-nemesis to Edward Drinker Cope, the only man whose name alone could get him kicked out of an AA meeting, he named Ceratosaurus, which means horn lizard. Now normally this is where I would rip the shit out of him for such a shitty, unoriginal name, but the dude named like 80 dinosaurs. I can barely think up jokes for 20 odd. They can't all be winners all the time. What I will rip the shit out of him for though, is the aforementioned mispositioning of the body. Despite knowing exactly how the body was found, he decided that since it had already been decided by the scientific community that theropods walked upright, they would just stick with that despite the evidence. In fact, it wasn't until 1910 that a bit more of a forward-thinking paleontologist by the names of Charles Gilmore decided to maybe trust how nature laid them out and mounted the specimen in the horizontal manner we now know to be correct. Excellent! It was a great leap forward for paleontology and theropod anatomy, right? Well, no, it wasn't until the 1970s that the horizontal stance became accepted. Well, fuck, I mean, I guess we at least got there eventually. But 60 odd years, even though you'd already figured it out? Come on, science. Get to it. Right, well, it's about time to give Theropodia's favourite horny boy a rating. I'm going to give it a 1910 out of 1884 for the time it spent being forced to stand up too straight, giving it ongoing back problems. Will nobody think of the dinosaur ergonomics? Well, you know what? I will. And I will also think about a Q&A segment coming up after the break. I'll see you there.
Did you know a turkey puppet once ran for the presidency of Ireland? Did you know that meat once rained from the skies of Kentucky? Did you know that there was an emperor of the United States for a while? Then listen to the Wiki Ship Down podcast.
We live in an age when the sum total of humanity's knowledge can be found in your pocket on a smartphone at any given time. But when that knowledge is peer editable, like it is on Wikipedia, what does that say about mankind? So follow us down the digital rabbit hole as we drink, joke, and curse our way through the random button on Wikipedia and see where our journey through humanity's knowledge takes us.
While you're at it, follow us on all social media at WikiShipDown. I'm Ruth Ann.
I'm Ryan, and be sure to find us every Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Alrighty then, welcome back. Glad we had that wee break. It gave me a chance to organise a chiropractor for that poor Ceratosaurus. I'm just kidding, of course. Chiropractic techniques are a fucking bullshit, and there's no scientific evidence that it works for anything other than minor back pain. This has been your Talking with Dinosaurs non-dinosaur related fact of the day. Now that's not going to be an ongoing segment, I just had to get that off my chest. Our Q&A is an ongoing segment though, so let's get on to that. Our first question is, what is your favourite dinosaur period and why? From Thomas Angrove. Well, Thomas, I assume you're talking about geologic time periods and not dinosaur menstruation. If you do mean when Aunt Flo visited dinosaurs, I can't really say, but I'd probably go with whichever one caused the least pain and discomfort for the dinosaurs having it. But assuming that you meant geologic time period, I would have to go with Triassic. Ooh, controversial. I personally just feel that by the Triassic, evolution was confident enough to really give some weird shit a try, but not good enough yet to get it all right. I mean, you had like the Atiosaurs, as mentioned in a previous episode, which were armadillo-like crocodiles that ate plants. You had really long-neck weirdos like Tanystropheus, which seemed like an early attempt at sauropods that just couldn't quite figure out how it was supposed to work. And then there was the Longisquama, which is possibly the weirdest creature of all time, with its crazy little mohawk spines running up its back. It was a really interesting time, and even if they didn't have the giants of the Jurassic or Cretaceous, so you know what, fuck your Triassic, and I think we can all agree, fuck the Carboniferous, you stupid coal-loaded bastard. Our next question comes from Nia Dawn, host of Murder Down Under and long-term friend of the podcast. Nia's question is, do you think it's harder to become a paleontologist or to become a successful podcaster about dinosaurs? And which does the world need more? Well, Nia, I may be a bit biased here, I must admit, but if we look at it mathematically, there's a shit ton more paleontologists than there are dinosaur podcasters. In fact, you could argue that there aren't any successful dinosaur podcasters. I certainly wouldn't consider myself successful, as, you know, I'm slowly frittering away all my money on better gear as opposed to actually trying to make the podcast any better, because that's way too hard. So it certainly seems like I took the hard route of Googling summaries of paleontologists' hard work, as opposed to the easy route that requires many years of study and dedication and hours of just looking at bones and interpreting what that means. So which is more important? Well, I guess there's a symbiosis here, where podcasters have nothing to talk about without paleontologists' research, but no one actually wants to listen to a real paleontologist because they'll just tell them inconvenient truths about the fact that we're the most destructive species of all time and we're wiping out all the life on Earth. Ugh. I'm going to have to side with me again though, because I'm a raging narcissist, even if I am very humble about it. Okay, next we're on to great contributions to dinosaur science by non-paleontologists, because fuck those guys. This week's great contributor is Marshall Parker Felch, discoverer of the holotype specimens of Ceratosaurus and also Stegosaurus. Now I know we've talked about him before, but seriously his last name is Felch, and he still lives his life like a fucking champion. I can't imagine anything getting this guy down. The poor bastard. Seriously though, Felch was instrumental in a lot of O.C. Marsh's discoveries, in such that he actually fucking discovered them himself. But since he didn't have a rich philanthropic uncle to finance his education, this Civil War veteran juggled his passion for natural history with struggling to provide for his family in a difficult place at a difficult time. And for that we will remember Felch and all the others like him, as we do our best to only slightly giggle at his unfortunate last name. Right, that brings us to a close for this episode of Talking with Dinosaurs. As usual, a special thanks to Al Electricity for the theme song. You can find a link to his work in the show notes. Make sure to hit him up if you need any musics for anything. He is fantastic. Also thanks to Adam Underfoot Donahue for the logo, and to all of you for listening. It means so much that you keep coming back and listening to this nonsense. Thank you for supporting me on this journey through the annals of prehistory. Annals, you say? No, I'm pretty certain it's annals. Whatever, which one of us has the podcast? Look, it means a lot that you listen, and I can never thank you enough. I am getting pretty low on questions again, so any questions you may have that are even tangentially related to ancient extinct beasts, please let me know. It doesn't really matter how silly or weird, or in fact, the sillier and weirder the better, but I will do my best to get every single one an answer. You can flick those through to me at talkingwithdinosaurs@gmail.com, or send them through on Twitter at TalkingDinocast. There's also Instagram at Talking with Dinosaurs. We've also got the Facebook group, Talking with Dinosaurs Dinophiles Anonymous. Oh, and we have a Discord server too. Hit me up wherever you like if you want to be able to call me a bastard for making fun of a 19th century farmer's name, any time of the day or night, from anywhere in the world. Oh, and as always, please donate to local museums, science groups, arts, schools, anyone out there making the world a better place through art or knowledge. And if you do have anything left over after that you want to get rid of, feel free to donate it to me on Ko-Fi or through PayPal at talkingwithdinosaurs@gmail.com. You don't feel obliged to, the show is and will always be free. I'm just letting you know that if you desperately need to waste some money, I'm always happy to take it. That is all for today. Ka kite anō. I've been Stefan Aito, and we have been Talking with Dinosaurs.